Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of EDUx Talks, the podcast where we challenge the way you think, learn, and live. I'm your host, Arjun, and today we're going to have a conversation that might actually make you uncomfortable. And honestly, that's the whole point.
Already starting with the warning label, huh?
Oh, absolutely, because today's topic is one that nobody really wants to talk about. We're talking about comfort, but not in the way you might expect. We're not here to celebrate comfort. We're here to expose it. We're calling this episode The Dangerous Side of Comfort.
And I think that title alone is going to confuse people, because most people hear the word comfort and they think, what's wrong with that? I worked hard. I deserve to be comfortable. What's dangerous about that?
Exactly. And that's the trap, isn't it? Comfort sounds so innocent, so harmless. It sounds like a reward. But what if I told you that comfort, real, sustained, unchallenged comfort, is one of the most destructive forces in a person's life?
I'd say you're absolutely right. And I'd say it from personal experience.
Well, before we dive deep, let me properly introduce our guest. Ladies and gentlemen, I have with me today Meera Sharma, a behavioral psychologist, a life strategist, a TEDx speaker, and someone who has spent the last decade studying why people get stuck in life. Meera, welcome to EDUx Talks.
Thank you so much, Arjun. I've been looking forward to this conversation for a while now. This is a topic very close to my heart, and honestly, very close to my own story.
And we're going to get into that story today. But let's start from the very beginning. When we say the dangerous side of comfort, what are we really saying? What is comfort in the context that we're discussing today?
Okay, so let's break it down. Comfort, at its core, is a state where everything feels familiar. There's no friction, there's no tension, there's no challenge. You know what to expect, you know how things work, you're not scared, you're not anxious, you're just existing. And on the surface, that sounds wonderful, right?
It sounds like the dream, honestly.
It does. And that's the problem. Because comfort is not the same as happiness. Comfort is not the same as fulfillment. Comfort is just the absence of discomfort. And when human beings start chasing the absence of discomfort instead of chasing meaning and purpose and growth, that's when things start to go very, very wrong.
You know, that distinction you just made, comfort is the absence of discomfort, not the presence of happiness, I think that's going to hit a lot of people really hard.
It should, because think about it. How many people do you know who are comfortable but miserable? They have the stable job, they have the routine, they have the predictable life, but when you sit with them and really ask, are you happy? Are you excited about your life? Are you growing? The answer is almost always no.
Almost always.
And that's the dangerous side, because comfort doesn't announce itself as a villain. It doesn't show up wearing a mask and say, hey, I'm here to destroy your potential. No, it shows up wearing a warm blanket. It shows up as a cozy couch. It shows up as that voice in your head that says, why would you risk what you have? Things are fine. Don't rock the boat.
Don't rock the boat. How many times have we heard that?
Too many. And I'll tell you something. Boats that don't rock also don't go anywhere. They just sit there, anchored, stuck.
Wow, that's powerful. Let me ask you this, Meera. Is there a science behind this? Is there a psychological explanation for why comfort becomes so addictive and so dangerous?
Oh, absolutely. So let's talk about the brain for a moment. The human brain is a survival machine. It's designed through millions of years of evolution to keep you alive, not to make you happy, not to help you reach your potential, just to keep you alive. And the way it does that is by seeking safety, predictability, and, you guessed it, comfort.
So our brains are literally wired to pull us toward comfort?
100%. There's a part of your brain called the amygdala. It's the fear center, and its primary job is to detect threats. Now, here's the fascinating thing. Your amygdala doesn't distinguish between a real threat, like a tiger chasing you, and a perceived threat, like the idea of quitting your job to start a business. To your brain, both of those things trigger the same response: danger, avoid, retreat to safety.
So when someone is thinking about making a big change, leaving a relationship, changing careers, moving to a new city, starting something new, their brain is literally treating that decision like a survival threat.
Exactly. And that's why so many people feel that intense resistance whenever they try to step outside their comfort zone. It's not laziness, it's not weakness, it's your brain doing exactly what it was designed to do, keeping you in familiar territory.
But familiar territory isn't always good territory.
Not at all. And this is where it gets really interesting. There's a psychological concept called the comfort zone model, originally discussed by Alistair White. It suggests that human performance and growth exist in 3 zones. The first is the comfort zone, where everything is easy and familiar. The second is the stretch zone, where things are challenging but manageable. This is where growth happens. And the third is the panic zone, where things are so overwhelming that you shut down.
So the growth happens in the stretch zone, the uncomfortable zone.
Always, every single time. No one has ever grown, evolved, or achieved anything extraordinary by staying comfortable. Think about any great story, any biography, any success story, and you'll find that the turning point always came at a moment of extreme discomfort. Always.
You mentioned earlier that this topic is personal for you. Can you share your story?
Yeah, I can. And I think I should, because I think it's important for people to know that even someone who now talks about growth and psychology and human behavior, even I got trapped in the comfort cage.
The comfort cage. I like that term.
So here's what happened. After I completed my master's in psychology, I got a job at a well-known corporate firm. I was a behavioral consultant. Good salary, great office, respected title. And for the first year or so, it was exciting. I was learning, I was growing, I was being challenged.
And then?
And then I mastered the role. I figured out the system. I knew exactly what was expected of me, exactly how to deliver, exactly how to get through the day without breaking a sweat. And that's when the comfort set in. The job went from exciting to routine, from challenging to autopilot. I stopped learning, I stopped growing, but I was comfortable, very comfortable.
And I'm guessing you stayed.
I stayed for 5 years, Arjun. 5 years. 5 years of going through the motions. 5 years of telling myself, this is good, this is stable, why would I leave? Meanwhile, I had this dream of starting my own practice, of writing books, of speaking to large audiences, of actually making a difference. But that dream was outside my comfort zone, way outside.
What was the turning point?
A conversation, a single conversation. I was at a family gathering, and my niece, she was about 7 years old at the time, she looked at me and asked, "Mira, Auntie, what's your dream?" And I opened my mouth to answer, and I realized I didn't have one anymore. I had killed it. I had traded my dream for comfort. And in that moment, I felt this wave of grief, like I was mourning a version of myself that never got to exist.
That's heavy.
It was the heaviest moment of my life, and it was the most important one, because that night I went home and I cried. And then I got angry. And then I made a decision. I decided that I would rather be uncomfortable and alive than comfortable and dead inside.
And that's when everything changed?
That's when everything started, not changed. Started. Because here's something people don't tell you. Leaving your comfort zone is not a single dramatic moment. It's a daily choice. It's waking up every morning and choosing the harder path, choosing to face the fear, choosing to be a beginner again, choosing to look stupid, choosing uncertainty over predictability.
And that's terrifying.
Absolutely terrifying. When I resigned from my job, people thought I'd lost my mind. My parents were worried, my friends were confused, even I was scared. But I'll tell you what scared me more, the idea of being 60 years old, sitting in a rocking chair and wondering, what if?
The regret.
The regret. And there's actually research on this. Bronnie Ware, a palliative care nurse, wrote a book called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. And the number 1 regret, do you know what it was?
Tell me.
I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. The number 1 regret of dying people is that they played it too safe. They stayed too comfortable. They lived someone else's idea of a good life instead of their own.
That just gave me chills.
It should give everyone chills, because here's the truth. You are going to die. I'm going to die. Everyone listening to this is going to die. And the question isn't whether you're going to die, it's whether you're going to live first.
And comfort prevents that.
Comfort prevents that because comfort tells you don't risk it, don't try it, don't do it, stay where you are, be grateful for what you have. And look, gratitude is important. I'm not saying you shouldn't be grateful, but there's a difference between being grateful for what you have and using gratitude as an excuse not to pursue what you want.
That's a really fine line, isn't it?
Very fine, and a lot of people cross it without even realizing it. They confuse complacency with contentment. They confuse stagnation with stability. They confuse settling with being grounded.
Can you talk about how comfort affects different areas of life? Like, it's not just about careers, right?
Oh, not at all. Comfort is sneaky. It infiltrates every area of your life. Let's start with relationships. How many people stay in relationships, romantic, platonic, even professional, that they've outgrown? Relationships where there's no growth, no challenge, no evolution. They stay because it's comfortable, because starting over is terrifying, because being alone is terrifying. So they choose a familiar kind of unhappiness over the unfamiliar possibility of something better.
A familiar kind of unhappiness, that's painfully accurate.
And then there's health. How many people know they need to change their lifestyle? They know they need to exercise. They know they need to eat better. They know they need to stop certain habits, but they don't because their current state, even if it's slowly killing them, is comfortable. Change requires effort. Change requires discomfort. And the brain says, no thanks, let's just watch another episode on Netflix.
I feel personally attacked right now.
And that's okay, because that's the first step, awareness. You can't fight an enemy you can't see, and comfort is the most invisible enemy there is.
What about intellectually? Like, how does comfort affect the way we think and learn?
This is a huge one, and it's particularly relevant for a podcast called EDUx. So let me paint a picture. When was the last time you read a book that genuinely challenged your worldview? Not a book that confirmed what you already believed, but one that made you uncomfortable, one that made you question your assumptions.
Honestly, it's been a while.
And that's normal because we've created these intellectual comfort zones. We follow people who think like us. We consume content that validates our existing beliefs. We surround ourselves with people who agree with us, and we call it finding our tribe. But really, we're just building echo chambers. We're reinforcing our biases. We're intellectually stagnating while feeling intellectually stimulated.
Social media plays a huge role in that, doesn't it?
Massive. The algorithms are literally designed to keep you comfortable. They show you what you want to see. They feed you content that matches your existing preferences. It's a comfort machine. And over time, your worldview narrows, your empathy shrinks, your curiosity dies. All because you never have to confront ideas that challenge you.
So what you're saying is comfort doesn't just stop you from doing things. It actually changes who you are.
Fundamentally, comfort atrophies you. Like a muscle you never use, your courage atrophies, your resilience atrophies, your creativity atrophies, your ability to handle adversity atrophies. And then when life inevitably throws you a curveball, because life always does, you're completely unprepared. You crumble because you spent years building a life designed to avoid discomfort. And now discomfort has found you anyway, and you have no tools to deal with it.
That's terrifying when you think about it that way.
It is. And I'll give you a real-world example. We saw this during the pandemic. COVID-19 disrupted the entire world. And the people who struggled the most, psychologically, emotionally, were the people who had built the most rigid, comfortable lives. People who had never dealt with uncertainty. People who had never been forced to adapt. Because suddenly, everything they relied on for comfort, routine, social interaction, predictability, was stripped away. And they didn't know who they were without it.
I remember that time. I think we all went through some version of that existential crisis.
We did, and it was a wake-up call for a lot of people. Unfortunately, most people hit the snooze button. When things went back to normal, they went right back to their comfortable lives. They didn't learn the lesson.
And what is the lesson?
The lesson is comfort is temporary. Always. No matter how carefully you construct your comfortable life, something will disrupt it. Always. So the question isn't how to maintain comfort, it's how to build the kind of inner strength that doesn't need external comfort to function.
Let's talk about that, because I think a lot of people listening right now are feeling convicted. They're recognizing themselves in this conversation. They're thinking, okay, I get it, comfort is dangerous, but what do I actually do about it? So what's the first step?
The first step is always the same. Awareness. You have to honestly audit your life and ask yourself some uncomfortable questions. Where am I on autopilot? Where have I stopped growing? What am I avoiding because it scares me? What dream have I buried because it's too risky? What conversation am I not having because it's too hard?
Those are tough questions.
They're meant to be tough because easy questions don't lead to meaningful answers. And let me add a few more. Who would I be if I wasn't afraid? What would I do if I knew I couldn't fail? And perhaps the most important one, if I keep living exactly the way I'm living today for the next 10 years, will I be proud of the person I become?
Pause. That last one.
That last one is the one that changes people, because most people, when they're honest with themselves, know the answer, and the answer scares them.
So after awareness, what comes next?
After awareness comes what I call micro discomfort, and this is a concept I've developed over years of working with clients. The idea is simple. You don't have to blow up your life overnight. You don't have to quit your job tomorrow or end your relationship tonight or move to a new country next week. That's not sustainable. That's the panic zone.
Right.
Instead, you practice small acts of discomfort every single day. You take a cold shower, you start a conversation with a stranger, you raise your hand in a meeting, you try a new skill, you go to a place you've never been, you eat something you've never tried, you say the thing you've been holding back.
So you're basically training your discomfort muscle.
Exactly. That's exactly what you're doing. You're teaching your brain that discomfort is not dangerous, that discomfort is survivable, that discomfort is actually the doorway to everything you've ever wanted. And over time, something magical happens. Your comfort zone expands. Things that used to terrify you become normal, and you start seeking bigger challenges. You start craving growth.
It's like building tolerance.
Great analogy. Just like you build tolerance to physical exercise, you build tolerance to discomfort. The first time you go to the gym, everything hurts, but over time, you need heavier weights to feel the challenge. Same with life.
Let's talk about the role of society in this, because I feel like our culture, especially modern culture, actively promotes comfort as the goal of life.
Oh, absolutely. And this is something I'm very passionate about. Look at the messaging we receive every day. Every advertisement, every product, every service, they're all selling you comfort. Same-day delivery, so you don't have to wait. Streaming services, so you don't have to be bored. Food delivery apps, so you don't have to cook. Dating apps, so you don't have to approach someone in person. Autocomplete, autocorrect, autofill, so you don't have to think.
We're being trained to avoid even the smallest inconvenience.
Exactly. And I'm not saying technology is bad. Technology is incredible. But the side effect of all this convenience is that we're raising a generation of people who cannot tolerate discomfort at all. A generation that has a meltdown when the Wi-Fi goes down. A generation that can't sit with their own thoughts for 5 minutes without reaching for their phone. A generation that confuses convenience with happiness.
And that connects to mental health, doesn't it?
Deeply. Look at the mental health statistics. Anxiety, depression, loneliness, they're all skyrocketing. And I believe that a significant contributing factor is our addiction to comfort. Because when you remove all discomfort from your life, you also remove challenge, struggle, resilience, and meaning. And without those things, life feels empty, purposeless. And that emptiness manifests as anxiety and depression.
So you're saying that some discomfort is actually necessary for mental health?
Not just necessary, essential. There's a concept in psychology called eustress. It's positive stress, the kind of stress you feel when you're working toward a goal, when you're learning something new, when you're pushing yourself beyond your limits. That kind of stress is actually good for you. It gives you energy, it gives you focus, it gives you a sense of purpose and accomplishment. Without it, you wither.
I want to talk about something that I think is a really important nuance in this conversation, because some people might hear all of this and think, so I should never rest, I should never relax, I should always be grinding. That's not what we're saying, right?
Thank you for bringing this up, because this is critical. No, absolutely not. We are not promoting hustle culture. We are not saying that rest is bad. Rest is vital. Recovery is vital. Self-care is vital. The distinction is between rest and stagnation. Rest is intentional. You work hard, you push yourself, and then you deliberately rest to recover. That's healthy.
Stagnation is different. Stagnation is when you never push yourself in the first place, when rest becomes your default state, when comfort isn't a break from the challenge, it is your entire life.
So it's about balance.
It's about rhythm, like a heartbeat. It expands and contracts, push and recover, challenge and rest, growth and integration. If your heartbeat was just a flat line, that's not rest. That's death.
Ha, that's a vivid metaphor.
It's meant to be, because a lot of people are living flatline lives and calling it peace. It's not peace. It's just the absence of life.
Let me ask you about a specific scenario that I think a lot of our listeners will relate to. Let's say someone is in a job. It's not their dream job, it doesn't excite them, but it pays the bills. It's stable, and they have responsibilities, family, loans, obligations. They can't just quit, so what do? How do they deal with the comfort trap when there are real-world constraints?
This is the most common question I get, and it's a valid one because I never want to be the person who says, just follow your passion without acknowledging the realities of life. So here's my practical advice.
Please.
First, acknowledge that staying in a job you've outgrown is a choice. It might be a necessary choice right now, but it's still a choice. And that distinction matters. Because when you see it as a choice, you reclaim your power. You're not a victim. You're not trapped. You're making a strategic decision for now.
For now, that's key.
Second, use the comfort of your current situation as a launch pad, not a hammock. What I mean is, your stable job gives you financial security. Use that security to invest in your growth. Take courses in the evening, build a side project on weekends, network with people in the field you want to enter, save money for the transition, build skills, build connections, build your escape plan while you're still comfortable enough to do it strategically.
That's actually brilliant, using comfort as a resource instead of a destination.
Exactly. And third, set a deadline. This is so important. Give yourself a time frame. Say, I will use the next 18 months to prepare, and at the end of those 18 months, I will make the move. Because without a deadline, someday becomes never. Comfort without a deadline is a life sentence.
A life sentence. That's going to stick with people.
Good, it should. Mira, I want to talk about fear, because I think fear and comfort are deeply intertwined. Like, people stay comfortable because they're afraid of failure, afraid of judgment, afraid of the unknown. How do we deal with that fear?
So first of all, let me normalize fear. Fear is not a sign of weakness. Fear is a sign that something matters to you. If you weren't afraid, it would mean you didn't care. So when you feel fear about pursuing something, that's actually a good sign. It means you're on the right track.
That's a complete reframe.
And it's backed by neuroscience. The same brain chemicals that produce fear, adrenaline, cortisol, are the same ones that produce excitement. The physiological response is almost identical. The only difference is the label you put on it. So when you feel that rush before doing something scary, you can either call it fear and retreat or call it excitement and advance.
So fear and excitement are literally the same thing?
Neurologically, almost identical. It's your interpretation that makes the difference. And this is something you can train. Every time you feel that surge before doing something challenging, consciously say to yourself, I'm not scared. I'm excited. It sounds simplistic, but the research shows it actually works. It's a technique called anxiety reappraisal.
That's fascinating. What about the fear of failure specifically? Because I think that's the big one.
The fear of failure is the comfort zone's best friend, and it's built on a fundamental misunderstanding of what failure actually is. Most people see failure as a verdict, as a permanent label. I failed, therefore I am a failure. But failure isn't a verdict. It's data. It's information. It's the universe telling you, this approach didn't work. Try another one.
I love that. Failure as data.
Every successful person you admire has a mountain of failures behind them. J.K. Rowling was rejected by 12 publishers. Steve Jobs was fired from his own company. Oprah was told she was unfit for television. Walt Disney was told he lacked imagination. Abraham Lincoln lost 8 elections before becoming president. These people didn't avoid failure. They accumulated failure, and they used it.
So it's not about never failing, it's about changing your relationship with failure.
Completely. And I'll tell you what the real failure is. The real failure is not trying. The real failure is letting your fear make your decisions for you. The real failure is arriving at the end of your life with your potential still locked inside you. That is the tragedy. Not falling down, but never standing up.
Pauses. That hit hard.
It's supposed to.
Let me bring up another angle. I think sometimes people stay comfortable because of the people around them, their environment, their social circle. Friends and family who, maybe with good intentions, discourage them from taking risks. Be practical. Think about your future. Don't be silly. How does environment play into this?
Environment is everything. There's a famous quote, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." And while that might be an oversimplification, the core truth is undeniable. Your environment shapes your beliefs, your expectations, and your behavior.
And if your environment is comfortable,
Then you'll be comfortable. If you're surrounded by people who have accepted mediocrity, I'm not using that word disparagingly, I'm using it literally, people who have settled for a just okay life, then just okay will become your standard. It'll become normal, and anything beyond just okay will seem unrealistic, impractical, even arrogant.
Arrogant?
Oh, yes. Have you ever noticed how people react when someone in their circle tries to level up? When someone starts working out, eating healthier, reading more, pursuing a new goal? The reaction is rarely supportive. It's often mocking. "Oh, look at you, trying to be better than us." Or it's dismissive. "That won't last." Or it's passive-aggressive. "Must be nice to have the time." And this is because your growth threatens their comfort. Your ambition holds up a mirror to their stagnation. And rather than deal with what they see in that mirror, they try to pull you back down.
The crab mentality.
Exactly. Crabs in a bucket. If one tries to climb out, the others pull it back in. Not out of malice, usually, but out of their own fear and insecurity. And this is why choosing your environment is one of the most important decisions you'll ever make.
so what do you suggest? Cut off friends and family?
No, not cut off, but you need to be intentional about who gets your time, your energy, and your attention. You don't have to abandon old relationships, but you need to build new ones. Find communities, online or offline, of people who are growing, who are ambitious, who are uncomfortable, people who challenge you, people who inspire you, people who hold you accountable.
And that's uncomfortable in itself.
Of course it is. Making new connections, entering new spaces, being the newest, least experienced person in the room, it's deeply uncomfortable. But that discomfort is the price of admission to a bigger life.
Let me talk about something that I think is going to be controversial, the role of suffering. Because there's this idea that suffering builds character, that pain is necessary for growth. Do you agree with that?
Pauses. This is nuanced. I don't believe in glorifying suffering. I don't believe you need to be in pain to grow. I don't subscribe to the no pain, no gain mentality in its extreme form. But I do believe that the willingness to endure discomfort, not suffering, but discomfort, is non-negotiable for growth.
There's a distinction between suffering and discomfort.
A huge distinction. Suffering is when life imposes pain on you against your will. Loss, trauma, illness, that's not something to be sought or celebrated. Discomfort, on the other hand, is when you voluntarily step into challenge, when you choose to do hard things, when you push yourself beyond your current capacity. That's not suffering, that's stretching.
I like that distinction.
And here's the thing, when you regularly practice discomfort by choice, you actually build the resilience to handle suffering when it comes. Because suffering will come. Life guarantees it. And the person who has been stretching themselves, challenging themselves, growing themselves, that person handles suffering very differently from the person who has spent their entire life avoiding any kind of difficulty.
So voluntary discomfort is like training for involuntary suffering.
Beautifully put. Yes, that's exactly it. It's like an emotional immune system. You expose yourself to small doses of challenge, and your capacity to handle adversity grows.
I want to shift gears a little and talk about comfort in the context of success, because I've noticed something interesting. A lot of people who achieve success actually become less motivated, less creative, less driven after they make it. Why is that?
This is such an important observation, and it ties directly into our topic. When someone is hungry, when they're working towards something, when they haven't yet arrived, discomfort is their fuel. They're scrappy, they're resourceful, they're relentless, because they have something to prove, something to build, something to chase.
The hunger.
The hunger. But then they achieve the goal. They get the promotion, they build the business, they make the money. And then what happens? They become comfortable. The hunger disappears, the fire dims, and slowly the very qualities that made them successful, the grit, the creativity, the hustle, start to atrophy.
So success can actually be dangerous.
Success without a new challenge is absolutely dangerous. There's a reason why so many lottery winners end up worse off before they won. There's a reason why so many retired athletes struggle with depression. There's a reason why so many entrepreneurs plateau after their first big success, because they achieved their goal and then stopped. They arrived at comfort and set up camp.
So the key is to keep moving.
The key is to keep growing, and that means constantly setting new challenges, not because you're never satisfied, but because you understand that growth is the satisfaction. The journey is the destination. The moment you stop climbing is the moment you start sliding.
Let me ask you about a word that's been on my mind throughout this conversation: courage. Because everything you're describing, leaving comfort, facing fear, embracing discomfort, it all requires courage. But courage seems to be in short supply these days.
You know, I think courage is more abundant than we realize. It's dormant. It's buried under layers of comfort and conditioning and convenience. But it's there, in everyone. I've seen it. I've seen the single mother who decided to go back to school at 40. I've seen the corporate executive who walked away from a six-figure salary to teach high school. I've seen the teenager who stood up to a bully despite being terrified. Courage is everywhere. It's just waiting for permission.
Permission from whom?
From yourself. That's the only permission you need, and that's the hardest permission to get, because giving yourself permission to be uncomfortable means admitting that your current life isn't enough. It means acknowledging that you've been playing small. It means accepting that you've been hiding, and that's a brutal realization.
But a necessary one.
The most necessary one of your life. Mira, let me ask you, what's the most uncomfortable thing you've done since you left that corporate job?
Oh, there are so many, but I'll tell you the one that taught me the most. About 3 years ago, I was invited to give a talk at a major conference, and I said yes before I was ready. I said yes when I had no idea what I was going to say. I said yes when I had no experience speaking to that size of audience. And for the 2 months leading up to that event, I was a wreck. Absolute wreck. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I was convinced I was going to humiliate myself.
And what happened?
I gave the talk, and it wasn't perfect. I stumbled over a few words. I lost my place once. My hands were shaking the entire time. But when I finished, when I looked out at that audience and saw people nodding, saw people taking notes, saw people wiping their eyes, I felt something I hadn't felt in years.
What?
Alive. I felt alive. Not comfortable, not safe, not secure. Alive. And in that moment, I understood, really understood, that the quality of your life is directly proportional to your willingness to be uncomfortable.
The quality of your life is directly proportional to your willingness to be uncomfortable. If there's one quote from this entire podcast that I want people to screenshot and save, it's that one.
And I mean it with every fiber of my being, because I've lived both sides. I've lived the comfortable life and I've lived the uncomfortable life. And I will take uncomfortable any day, because uncomfortable is where the magic happens. Uncomfortable is where you discover who you really are. Uncomfortable is where you find out what you're actually made of.
Let me ask you one more question that I think will be valuable for our listeners. If someone is listening to this right now and they're feeling that stirring, that recognition that they've been too comfortable for too long, what is the one thing they should do today? Not tomorrow, not next week, today.
Today, right now, before they go to bed tonight, I want them to do one thing that scares them. Just one. And it doesn't have to be big, it doesn't have to be dramatic. It could be sending that text they've been avoiding. It could be signing up for that class they've been thinking about. It could be having that conversation they've been postponing. It could be writing the first paragraph of that book. It could be going for a run even though they haven't exercised in months.
Just one thing.
Just one thing. Because here's what happens. When you do one scary thing and survive, you realize something profound. You realize that you're stronger than your fear. And that realization changes everything. It creates momentum, and momentum is the antidote to comfort.
Momentum is the antidote to comfort. Another brilliant line.
Because comfort is static. Comfort is inertia, and the only way to overcome inertia is to move, to take action, even if it's small, even if it's imperfect, even if it's messy. Just move, because a body in motion tends to stay in motion, and a body at rest tends to stay at rest. Don't be a body at rest. Don't be a life at rest.
Mira, before we wrap up, I want to give you the floor. If you could speak directly to the person listening, the person who is stuck, who is comfortable, who knows they're capable of more but can't seem to take the first step, what would you say to them?
I would say this. I see you.
I know you, because I was you. I was the person with the stable job and the empty soul. I was the person with the comfortable life and the quiet desperation. I was the person who smiled on the outside and screamed on the inside. And I want you to know something. The life you're dreaming about, the one that keeps you up at night, the one that makes your heart beat faster just thinking about it, that life is real. It exists, and it's waiting for you. But it's not waiting in your comfort zone. It's on the other side of your fear.
Quietly, wow.
And I know it's scary. I know it feels impossible. I know there are 1,000 reasons why you can't. But I want you to find the one reason why you must. Maybe it's your children. Maybe it's your younger self who dreamed bigger. Maybe it's the person you'll never become if you don't start now. Find that reason, hold on to it, and let it pull you forward. Because the world doesn't need another comfortable person. The world needs you, the real you, the brave you, the uncomfortable you, the you that exists on the other side of everything you're afraid of. Go find that person. They're waiting.
Pauses for a long moment. I don't even know what to say after that. That was incredible. Mira, thank you. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for this conversation. Thank you for your vulnerability. Thank you for your wisdom. And thank you for making all of us wonderfully, beautifully uncomfortable today.
Laugh softly. Thank you, Arjun. And thank you to everyone at EDUx Talks for giving these conversations a platform. This is important work, and I'm honored to be part of it.
And to our listeners, you've just spent the last however long listening to a conversation about comfort. And now the question is, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to close this episode and go right back to your comfortable routine? Or are you going to do that one thing today, that one scary, uncomfortable, heart-pounding thing that you know you need to do?
The choice is yours. It always has been.
This has been EDUx Talks. The episode was called The Dangerous Side of Comfort. I'm your host, Arjun, and this has been one of the most powerful conversations I've had on this show. If this episode moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Tag us, leave a review, but most importantly, go be uncomfortable. We'll see you in the next one.
Stay uncomfortable, everyone.
Stay uncomfortable.